Hey everyone, welcome back. Today's video is a bit of a different format and we're just gonna have kind of a couch chit-chat sesh. I tried the new Tom Ford Rose Prick and I haven't fully made up my mind about it, so I just thought we would hang out on the couch and talk about things, get a bit of a dialogue going. Well, more of a monologue because I'm the only one talking, but you guys can just comment your opinions on it down below and just kind of how I feel about Tom Ford in general, because overall, they've been pretty hit or miss for me. And Rose Prick, when I saw the bottle, obviously this was a highly anticipated release, and I saw the bottle and I had already certain expectations because of the packaging. It's like this nice light baby pink matte bottle and the name like Rose Prick. I was expecting, you know, maybe some kind of like a modern chypre, like thinking Rose Prick, so maybe it's going to be prickly, a little bit, you know, sizzly like that, and with a modern take on it. And I really didn't know what to expect from this fragrance. I thought it'd be quite heavy on the rose, and I was really excited to try it, especially because there's been a lot of hype about this release. So then I was lucky because my local Sephora has a lot of Tom Fords. They have all the new releases. They have ones that I haven't seen in any other Sephora. So when I was there last, a few weeks ago, they had Rose Prick, and I thought it had just come out, so I didn't think that it would be available there. And I got a sample, and then I wore it, and then I got another sample. So I have my Sephora samples right here, have my Rose Prick in there, and it's actually my scent of the day, but I'm gonna spray it again, and then I'll just tell you guys my impressions from the get-go, what I think of it, and whether it's worth it or not. And so here it is. So for those of you who don't know, the notes in this fragrance are, the top notes are Sichuan pepper and turmeric, which is an odd one because I've actually never seen turmeric as a note in fragrances. And there's three different roses. There's May rose, Bulgarian rose, and Turkish rose. I'm personally not a rose expert, so I don't really know how those differentiate. And then in the base, there is tonka and patchouli. So I kind of know what to expect from that. But yeah, if you guys know the differences between the three roses, please let me know down below. And the description on Fragrantica says that it's that the rose in this fragrance is a juicy, flowery, full-bodied rose. So I was expecting like quite a rosy fragrance. And when I had first sprayed it, it kind of took me by surprise because it wasn't that full-bodied, juicy rose that I had expected. So I'm going to spray it again on my wrists and on my hand. And it opens up very peppery, very prickly. So that from that name, Rose Prick, it's more about the prick in the opening. It's like, it really does like prickle your nose. And then in the background, there's a rose, but it's not a juicy rose. I would say it's more of, to my nose, it's more of a dry rose, almost like a dried up rose. Like I'm picturing when I smell this, I get a lot of the pepper in the beginning, and I guess that's what turmeric smells like. I never knew what turmeric smells like in a fragrance. It's interesting. I guess if I think about turmeric and the spice and using it in like smoothies or whatever, okay, I would pick it up if I'd known to look for it, and definitely a lot of rose. But again, so the rose for me, when I think about the rose in here, I think about a dried up rose, a sad kind of one that's been left in a vase for a long time and is just wilted and dried up fully, like one that you can kind of crush and it will just crumple, that kind of rose. And there is a certain earthy wetness, as if, you know, if that rose is in a vase and there's still a bit of water in that vase, the way that that stem would smell, that kind of like raw, vegetal, almost earthiness. And I know that sounds really gross, but it's not bad. It's just kind of melancholic. Like, this is not a happy, juicy, fun-loving rose, which for me, I was expecting from the packaging something playful. This is not a playful rose. It's not a girly, cute rose. It's a very serious, melancholic rose. It's not an uplifting fragrance. I think it's a great fragrance. I do like it, but I don't know that I would crave to wear it. At first blast, the pepperiness and the rose combination reminded me a little bit of Hermès Tuiles Poivré, the newer release. But that one I really like. And this one, I think I like it less than that. Not that they're similar fragrances. They're really not similar fragrances. But just that, I guess, the peppery rose combo. And then the patchouli. I find with all Tom Fords, they have a very common patchouli note. Like the way that, you know how Chanel fragrances have a very Chanel vibe and you can recognize a Chanel fragrance. For me, I find that with certain darker Tom Ford releases, I can recognize that Tom Ford touch. The common denominator is the patchouli note when I looked at all those fragrances. And yeah, the patchouli note in this is similar to a lot of other patchouli notes in Tom Ford fragrances. It actually slightly reminds me of Noir de Noir, but Noir de Noir is a lot more heavy, impactful, rich. This is lighter. They're not similar, by the way. I'm just talking about the patchouli note. But to my nose, I can smell that similarity in those fragrances. The patchouli note in here is very similar to that. It's just a lighter, airier kind of variation of it. And now it's been a couple minutes, so however long that I was talking, about 5 minutes or so, the pepperiness goes away and then the rose comes out to play more. And the rose is like I said, a dry rose. There's a dustiness to it. I guess some people would say powdery, but for me, it's more dusty. There's almost a bit of a bitterness to it. A bit more of a harshness. It's not a makeup powder kind of rose. It's a slightly bitter, almost dusty rose, almost an antique-y rose. So for me, there was a huge disconnect with when I smelled the fragrance and what I was expecting from the packaging. I'm still really making up my mind about it. I don't know if it's worth the money. There's honestly, in my opinion, a lot better rose patchouli fragrances, peppery rose patchoulis. Like I said, like Tuiles Poivré for me is beautiful. It's much less expensive, and though it's not the same effect, that combination with rose and pepper is, to me, a lot more appealing. This one, I think this is about the 3rd or 4th time that I'm wearing it. And the more that I wear it, the more I like it and the more it really grows on me. With Tom Ford releases in general, for me, I'm always very, very excited to try them. But there's a certain, I guess, bias that I have already with that brand, and I'm guilty of this. I'm like already set with like a negative mindset when I go into it because I just don't really like the brand's image. I don't like that very arrogant, kind of edgy, obnoxious sort of vibe. I know a lot of you guys might disagree with me, but for me, that's what I get from Tom Ford fragrances. They're very like provocative and edgy, and they try to get a reaction out of you. You know what I mean? It's like that person, that loudmouth, arrogant person at a party that's just there to get a reaction out of people. To me, that's what Tom Ford fragrances are. I feel like they're that loudmouth at a party that you either love or hate. And I will say that the men's fragrances from Tom Ford, I kind of gravitate towards more, and I really like them. I do find them quite masculine, so I like them on men. I really like oud wood. I actually like tobacco oud as well. I recently smelled that and I was surprised that I liked that one. That one's pretty polarizing, but I did like that one. And Tuscan leather I like, ombre leather I like grape vetiver. Like basically, I like Beau de Jour. I like almost all men's Tom Fords, but not on myself. The ones like Black Orchid, I don't think it's like a bad scent, but as soon as I sprayed it, it was like an instant headache, like that changed into a migraine, and I had it for hours. I don't know what's in there that caused the headache, but I think just because of the heaviness of the scent and just the strong impact that it has, I'm not even a sensitive person, and it gave me a really solid headache for several hours. Like I was out. So that's the issue for me. Velvet Orchid's pretty good. I haven't tried all of them. That's the thing. There's still a whole bunch that I have to try. I can't smell every single one when I go into the boutique, because at some point my nose just taps out and it's just not working properly. But the ones that I really like are the ones that don't fit that typical Tom Ford staple sort of typical image. Like, I recently smelled Soleil Neige and I fell in love with that one, and I got samples of that. I absolutely crave that fragrance. It's so good. It's like a fluffy, lemony, musky sort of very uplifting fragrance. Very not Tom Ford-esque. So I think that the people that generally gravitate towards typical Tom Ford fragrance releases probably wouldn't like that one at all, but I really like it, and I would definitely want to get a full bottle of that. I think a lot of them are so edgy that they're, for me, hard to see as like an everyday scent, and so that's a deterring factor to buy a full bottle. I also recently tried Lost Cherry, and I did like it. And though it is quite gourmand, and I'm not typically a gourmand person, I did like it. But it's very like, it's very gourmand. It's very cherry and almond. Like, in the beginning, it was almost like a tart cherry for me. And then it turned into a very rich cherry liqueur with almond. And it's quite nice. Like, I do like it, but again, I wouldn't see it as like a fragrance that I'd be able to wear every day because it's so specific. It's very like, you have to be in the mood for it, for me. And I do struggle a bit with the whole Tom Ford fragrance line. There's some that I really want to like, but I always come into smelling them with like a very skeptical outlook, and I'm already expecting something very hard-hitting and impactful. A few of the other ones that I tried that I did actually really like was Jasmin Rouge, and Soleil Blanc is okay. That one's just kind of, it just reminds me of a little bit of like a suntan lotion vibe. I guess what I struggle with as well is that the scents that do appeal to me really aren't justified. Like, the price point really isn't justified. As much as I'm love or hate with Tom Fords, the ones that I do love, I find that I really love. Like, I think I've mentioned in a few of my other videos that Oud Wood is one of my absolute favorites for men. It's just at the top there. It's amazing. And then I also really like Tobacco Vanille, and even though I wouldn't want a full bottle because it's a very occasional scent, that was one of the few fragrances that I smelled and right away I was like, wow, like, it's different, you know? Then eventually you get used to it, and then there's dupes that come out, and eventually that fragrance doesn't seem as wow, but it was one of the few fragrances that gave me that reaction when I first smelled it. And Soleil Neige I really like as well. But with Rose Prick, I'm still making up my mind about it. I just wasn't expecting this particular release. So I'm smelling it again now in my hand. So I had recently sprayed it here, but I have it on my wrist from before. And it doesn't last that long, you know? It goes into the dry down very quickly, and then it settles, and I don't think that it projects that heavily. I don't think that it really is all that present. Like, I smell a very faint patchouli and tonka and a little tiny bit of rose on where it's dried down. And I've had this on here for about 3 hours. So after 3 hours, I'm finding Rose Prick has kind of dissipated. But where I just sprayed it, yeah, right now it's all about the pepper is gone. I guess whatever that turmeric note was is gone as well. And it's just about the rose now. Not a juicy rose, I wouldn't call it a full-bodied rose. It's not a jammy rose. It's a very soft, dusty, dried up rose is what it smells like to me. Very elegant. It's a really elegant fragrance. I can definitely see this being worn on a night out with a gown, and just either men or women. Like, I don't think I mentioned that earlier, but this is absolutely unisex, and I could definitely see this on a man. I think it's one of the few rose fragrances that I've ever smelled that I think would do really well on a man. It does have that sort of peppery prickliness. So yeah, the name Rose Prick, it's really about the prick in my mind. Let me know your thoughts on Rose Prick, as well as what you guys generally think of the Tom Ford fragrance releases. And do you think that their men's fragrances are kind of better than their women's fragrances? I know that they're all technically unisex, but there are some more masculine leaning and some more feminine leaning, and I'm just finding that the ones that are more masculine leaning, in my opinion, are just better. I'm curious to know your thoughts, so leave me a comment down below, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a little bit of a different format, it's just a bit of a chit chat, but hopefully you enjoyed it, and give me a thumbs up if you did. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.